everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. On today's show, Chelsea have offered Ben Chilwell to Manchester United as Manchester United are in desperate need of a left-back, but according to reports, Manchester United have decided against signing a left-back. However, we did have Romano on the show at the start of this week and he said we could still sign a left-back, but it would have to be cheap or on a loan or on a free transfer. Would Ben Chilwell be the right player to go for? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of extreme opinions on this, so get your chats in, get your super chats in and let me know, and I can run a poll if you want me to as well. We'll get that going in the chat. I mean, I have my own opinion on it, so I'll speak about that as well. Also, a little bit more stuff coming out on Ugarte from Fabrizio Romano on his own YouTube channel. Forget Ederson, he says, from Atalanta. Ugarte is the guy that Manchester United won, and they are pushing very hard in negotiations. It's very, very, very advanced. Also, Scott McTominay is the signals that he's going to stay at Manchester United. We'll get into that as well. But look, everyone, welcome to the afternoon show. Let's get straight into things. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. The poll is already up. Should United sign Chilwell? Yes, no, loan. Because I saw a few people at the start of the show saying they wouldn't mind him on loan. I mean, my personal opinion on this is, Chelsea, thanks for the offer, but no thanks. No thanks. We should not be going anywhere near Ben Chilwell. Do I think Ben Chilwell, when he's fit, is a decent player? Yeah, I think he's a pretty good player, to be honest with you. Do we need to pay somebody to come in to hold Luke Shaw's hand in the medical department, to be a mate for Luke Shaw to have in the medical department, and another left-back in the medical department? We don't. We've already got Malacia, who has had a huge injury. I mean, it's been over a year since he was out. Hopefully will return this season, but who knows? After a year of being out at that stage in your career, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to come straight back in. It'll take a lot of time to come back into the first team. You've got Luke Shaw, who we know is consistently injured, and we know he's injury prone and he's always in the medical department. And then you've got Ben Chilwell, potentially, who has consistent injuries and consistent injuries in the same area as well in terms of his knee, consistent knee injuries. He has an issue there. Plus he's on 200 grand a week at Chelsea, so why would Manchester United pay someone 200 grand a week? What is worse than having two left backs that are injury prone and consistently injured, having three? And that's what Ben Chilwell is. I think he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but there's absolutely zero chance on this planet that Manchester United should be going for him, considering what his reputation is. We need to move away from injury-prone players. We need to move away from injured players, and that's what Ben Chilwell is. We don't need that. Honestly, we don't need it. I'd rather not sign anyone at all than sign someone, again, that's just going to be taking up a wage on 200 grand a week, but injured consistently. Okay, yeah, you'll probably get a few games out of him, but nowhere near enough considering what the input would be, because Chelsea would want a fee. Okay, yeah, it would probably be a small fee because the manager's come out and said he's going to have no minutes, so he has to go. So you would probably be able to get him on the cheap, but at the same time, you've got to pay him 200 grand a week, which we don't want to do. Our wage structure, we're trying to get it down, so that's a no-go. And he's not going to be fit enough. So Ben Chilwell, to me, this is Chelsea. They're desperate to get rid of him because their manager, by the way, Maresca, wow, no cares given. Genuinely no cares given in the world, just keeps coming out and saying this player should leave, that player should leave. I mean, Sterling and Chilwell have both been basically condemned by Maresca and said that they're not going to get any minutes here. So from Chelsea's point of view, from a selling point of view, that's really tough, because any club that would ever be interested in Chilwell knows he has to leave before the end of this transfer window. So Chelsea would sell him on the cheap, but for me, it's just not worth it. I think this is something that United would have done in the past. Under the Glazer ownership, under a structure that wasn't competent, we probably would have gone for him. England international, you know, Ben Chilwell is English, you know, he did go for Chelsea for quite a decent bit of money. He is probably a decent player. Under the old regime, we probably would have done that. But I would like to think, and I do believe, that the current hierarchy that we have at United, the one that has been installed by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS, the Dan Ashworths, the Omar Baradas, the Jason Wilcoxes, they would look at this and say, injured, too much money, isn't the right fit for this club, and would say no. So for me, Ben Chilwell, Chelsea can offer him to Manchester United all we want. We need to be smart about this, and he's not the right player for us to go for. And it's slim pickings. It's slim pickings. If you guys watch my shows, you all know how I feel about bringing a left back in. I think it's something we have to do. Doesn't look like we're going to do it, but it's something we have to do. But at the same time, I'm not desperate enough that I'll just go for anyone or anything. It's got to be the right profile. We've got to have patience, and we've got to make sure when we do actually spend money on somebody, it's somebody that's going to come in and better our squad and be a good investment for us. And Ben Chilwell, for me, isn't that. But get in your comments down below what you think on this. I would love to know your opinions, because there is some people out there that would probably take him. Patrick Lynch says, no point loaning/buying players that aren't the right profile. Exactly. Chilwell is too injury prone. Needs to look for someone who will replace Shaw, basically. Exactly. And you know what it is for Chilwell, for me? Even though I said I think he is a good player, he's way too injury prone. I mean, I wrote down here on this. I mean, he had a cruciate ligament injury, and he's played 16 games overall last season. In all competitions, 16 games, and he's on 200 grand a week. We can't be buying someone like that, considering how often Shaw is injured. And you know how much I love Luke Shaw, and I've put up with his injuries because I think of how good he can be when he's fit. For me, Luke Shaw is miles ahead of a player than Ben Chilwell. I think Luke Shaw is a much better left back when he is fit than Ben Chilwell. I think Ben Chilwell is a good player, but I think Shaw's in a league of his own. Shaw, we probably do need to replace him eventually because of how injured he is. But to replace Shaw, you don't need to bring someone in that actually isn't as good as him and is just as injured as him. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Jason Chats gifted a membership, legend of the chat. Thank you very much for that. What is the poll saying so far if the results will come through? A few people might say loan, but again, what is the point of bringing someone in on loan, paying the wages, which he's on 200 grand a week, if they're not going to be fit and they're not something we want long term? I understand in football sometimes there is stopgaps. Reguilon was a stopgap last year for us. But under the new regime and the rebuild that we're currently doing, for me personally, as much as I want a left back, I want to get the right profile in. I want to go for the right type of players and the right sort of profiles with, you know, the right potential and future ahead of them, whether that is on a loan or whether that is on a permanent transfer, whether that is a free transfer. You want to be going for the right sort of deals. You want to be going for players that are going to better our squad and going to help us long term. Would that alone do that for us, or would it just be, you know, more kind of effort for the medical department and more wages being paid out with not much return? That's the question that I would ask for me. And David Porter says, do not sign out of desperation. It would just add to our problems. I completely agree. Some people are saying bring Chilwell in the chat. Anyone who would like to bring Chilwell, obviously you know I'm against it. Please get in the chat why you would want to bring him, because I'd be really interested to hear the opposite opinion. Like, if you strongly believe that Manchester United should go for Ben Chilwell, please let me know why. And plus also, I mean, Chelsea, do we really want to be going for their players now? Like, really? I mean, Chelsea, for me, just, I mean, I could do a whole other show on that club and how I'm so confused by the process that they're going by. I don't want to go against what I said. I do think Ben Chilwell has been a decent player in the past, but he's nothing more than that, decent. And it's not enough, especially with all the injuries for me. It's not enough. A lot of people are saying Harry Armas again. I've spoken about this a number of times, so I don't want to go into it in too much depth. Harry Armas is not going to be a first-team player for Manchester United this season. I highly doubt it. If he can reach that level this season, brilliant. Do I think he has the potential to do that? Yes. Do I think he's a super exciting talent? Of course he is. On tour, he looks really exciting. He's definitely got levels to go up. He's got a lot of good attributes, 100%. And I do think he has the ability to reach the level to be a first teamer for Manchester United in the future at the moment if he carries on his development. But he's not ready right now. And Erik ten Hag doesn't think he's ready right now because he's not part of the squad at the start of the season, the first team squad. He wasn't part of the first team squad for the Community Shield. He would rather play Lisandro Martinez there at left back and also didn't even put him on the bench. He's only 17, he's got time. I think next season is the season where Harry Armas potentially is ready to come through. And maybe that's why we're not going for a left back this season, because they think Harry Armas will be ready next season. So what's the point of going investing a huge sum on a left back or a decent sum on a left back to be the future if Harry Armas will be ready next year? But Harry Armas isn't the solution this season. He isn't. Like, you can just tell Erik ten Hag doesn't think he's ready quite yet. Maybe he'll get some games in the Europa League. I hope he does. Maybe he'll start to come through in the cup games and, you know, we might get some cameos for sure. But to throw him in the deep end and ask him to be the starting left back for Manchester United, it's just not the way to... It's not the way to help his development either. It's too much pressure to put on someone at 17 years old. They need to be nurtured into the team. and Erik ten Hag won't want to rush things, and he shouldn't have to rush things. So that is what I'm thinking on Harry Armas. Toby Collier, I think he's a bit ahead of him. He's obviously part of the first team, but he still didn't even get some minutes off the bench at the weekend, when I thought, you know what, he could have done a job coming on, because Mainu was knackered, Casemiro was knackered, and he's a decent player with a lot of energy. So he could have done a job, but Ten Hag still didn't want to risk it with a 1-0 lead. So Erik ten Hag's going to be very cautious about bringing the young players in, because he doesn't want to ruin the development, and he doesn't want to put too much pressure on them too soon. So, and I think that's the right way to handle it. Need to stop signing players just to keep the medical team busy, says Ben Campbell. Greg Foss says Chilwell is absolutely quality. That's why, Beth. Look, Greg. I did say I think Chilwell's a good player. I've just tweeted he's a good player. He's not as good as Luke Shaw, in my opinion, because, like, I think Luke Shaw, when he's on form, is one of the best left-backs in Europe, if not the best, one of the best. I think he's the best left-back in the league when he's at his best. We never see it because he's too injured. He's injured all the time, which is getting super, super frustrating, by the way. Chilwell is a good player. He's a good left-back. But he is also injured all the time. Why would you do the same thing twice? We've already got Luke Shaw, who's good and injured all the time. We need to bring someone who's good and can challenge Luke Shaw, but isn't injured all the time. That's why. He played 16 games all season last year. He's got a reoccurring knee injury. Like, they're the signs for you. They're not loads of different injuries. It's the same injury. Maybe not exactly the same injury, but the knee is always the issue with Ben Chilwell. That's not someone you want to invest in. That's not someone you want to bring in on a permanent transfer. And even if it is a loan, you're going to be paying his wages, and is he even going to be fit for you? That's what I was trying to say. Jose Brancho Ruere, sorry if I've said that wrong, hope a Sterling Sancho swap isn't on the cards. No, I agree. I'll talk about that in a second as well. David McGloin says, hi Beth, hope you're well. If not Chilwell, realistically, which left back would you like to sign? I mean, I would love to sign Gutierrez from Girona, but that's not going to happen. He's too expensive. Obviously, a lot of people were talking about Ferdi Kadioglu from Fenerbahce. People who I trust with their football opinions have told me he's really good and he's got the potential to step up, can play both sides. He seemed really interesting to me. I think there is a few left-backs out there that look really exciting that are available around that 30 million mark. That's probably what Girona would want for Gutierrez, around 25 to 30 million, and the same with Fenerbahce for Ferdi Kadioglu. But unfortunately, Manchester United don't have that money to spend on a left-back. So you're looking really at a loan deal or, you know, a free transfer. Alonso is definitely a no from me. I'd rather sign nobody. Reguilon, potentially. But that's the thing with Reguilon, right? You bring him in from Spurs, and I assume it would be a permanent transfer rather than a loan. If it was a loan, I'd be a lot more open to it. But Reguilon, as much as he would, you know, die for the badge and he was passionate and he was decent, he's not someone that's going to be like first teamer long term or someone competing for the first team long term. So I don't see the point in it. I only want to buy players that have a chance of competing for the first team long term and can really do a job for us. Reguilon could do a job for us across the season on loan again, but would Spurs want to do that? That's the question that you'd ask. You'd ask for sure. Tim Formica, member for 34 months, says, how about INEOS actually do something instead of possibly looking at 50 different players and getting none of them? I think INEOS have had a really good transfer window, bar the left-back situation, in my opinion. Xerxes looks like he's going to be a good signing. Yoro and De Ligt in for the prices that we got them at, considering that, you know, the old structure would have chased Branthwaite all season to end up probably paying around 75, 80 million for him. Whereas we've got two centre-backs in, De Ligt and a young centre-back that was supposed to be going to Real Madrid that's potentially a generational talent in Yoro in for good prices. People say that we overpaid for Yoro, but for an 18-year-old huge talent, we got him for cheaper than what Branthwaite was available for. And then I think we're going to get Ugarte over the line. We've got quite a few players out. Could have done with getting a couple more players out, to be honest. We'll see what happens at the end of the window. Eriksen, Lindelof, you know, some people say Maguire. I'm happy for Maguire to stay as a rotational centre-back. And McTominay might go, potentially. Looks like Lindelof isn't going to go, but he probably should have gone this summer. But overall, you know, we've got Van der Beek out. We've got quite a few players out that were just, you know, never going to be part of the squad going forward. And I think we've made some really good incomings. The only thing for me that we've absolutely dropped the ball on, in my opinion, is not bringing the left back in. Now, I say that, Mazraoui looks fantastic. His first game, I was so impressed. And that is looking like a really good signing for the money that we paid. What did we pay? Around 15 million for Mazraoui. And he looks class. It's been one game, but he generally does look class. And I know Bayern fans are absolutely gutted that they've lost him. Genuinely, I've seen people online saying how much of a good deal it is for Manchester United and how gutted they are that they've lost him and it was a mistake on Bayern's part. But for me, I don't know how, as somebody working for Manchester United, you assess last season and the issues we had at left back. Like, we had Amrabat playing there, we had Lindelof playing there, we had like no left backs basically all season. I don't know how you watch that happen all season and then you watch Luke Shaw get injured again and still say, you know, left back isn't a priority for us, especially because Romano was telling us from February last year that United were going to sign a left back. So it clearly was a priority for us. And then we decided against it. Why? I would love to know why. People say because Mazraoui and Dalot can play there. You need an out-and-out left back though, really. You do. I mean, I think Dalot does a decent job there and Mazraoui, I know he's both-footed, but they're both predominantly right backs. Mazraoui and Dalot should be competing for the right back spot. Two very good right backs competing for that spot. For the left back spot, we should have Luke Shaw, who's consistently injured, and we should have bought a left back that is going to eventually take the baton from Luke Shaw and he's going to take us forward, but he's good enough now to play in the first team. That's what we should have done after everything that we went through. I think if we have issues there this season, nobody can say, oh, that's a shame. Oh, how were we to know that we'd have issues at left back? Because last season it was so blatantly obvious. It was staring you in the face. Left back for me was in my top 3 priority positions. It was so important. And, you know, a lot of people talk about getting the best out of Marcus Rashford. I mean, I do think sometimes excuses are exaggerated for Rashford in terms of the left back. But what I would say is it absolutely would do him no favours at all not having a consistent partner to play with him on a regular basis. Like, Rashford obviously starts most of his games at left wing. We see in his most successful season he had that consistent partnership with Luke Shaw. Not having a consistent left back that's going to be able to overlap, that's going to help you, that's going to drag defenders away, is going to affect your game. So you're talking about getting the best out of Rashford as well, or Garnacho, or whoever plays on that left wing. Provide him with a left back that's going to be able to do that. I mean, Dalot was I thought he handled Adama Traore brilliantly, considering what happened last season with Adama Traore. I thought Dalot defended really well against Adama Traore, but every time he used to get forward, like, there was no crosses coming in because he's not predominantly left-footed. You want a left-footer playing left-back that's going to be able to whip them crosses in and create that partnership with Rashford. We don't have that. I think it's such a mistake kind of not addressing that issue. And it's, for me, a missing piece to the puzzle that was so glaringly obvious that we needed to fix. So happy. I don't take away from INEOS. I think they've done so many things right. The appointments of Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rennie Harker, the rest of the coaching staff, Dan Ashworth, you know, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada. The signings we have made, young players that have room to develop, but also, you know, are super exciting that can come into the team now. De Ligt as well. So happy about that. Mazraoui looks like a gem of a transfer. It really does. But we have massively dropped the ball, in my opinion, not bringing in a left back, and that is why. So that's something, like, I'm always going to be honest. I can be positive, of course I can. I've been really positive about this window, but I'm also allowed to have an opinion that isn't positive because I look at that left back situation and it does worry me. That's my own personal opinion. But it still doesn't mean we have to go and sign players in a crisis, in an emergency, that we're going to regret. And for me, Chilwell is not the right profile, and I think we would regret going for that due to the wage and due to the injury situation. So you've got to find the balance really with it. Got some more chats coming in there as well. Paul Guthrie, a member for 21 months. Surely Hermoso on a free is the best option. Can play left-sided centre-back and left-back. I keep hearing about him. Again, doesn't excite me at all. But, you know, we could do a job. But I've not really heard any concrete links. I mean, I keep hearing that we're linked to him, but nothing really concrete. So I don't know if that's something United will go for, but it's interesting. Jason chats football saying Camavinga for left back from Real Madrid. Oh God, I still can't believe we dropped the ball in signing Camavinga. What a player. Desire Labonte, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Chris Freeman says we should have kept young left backs like Alvaro Fernandez, in my opinion. Matty Hope says Alfie Doughty is absolute quality. Same profile as Robertson, will be cheap. He's 24 and will be hungry. Be absolutely stupid to not even try. Are you talking about, yeah, you're talking about Doughty from Luton. Really liked the look of him last season for Luton. And yeah, he'd be someone I'd be in. See, I'd so much rather go for someone like that than Ben Chilwell. Even though Ben Chilwell's got more experience and he's a good left back, he's injured, he's on 200 grand a week, and you know what you get. You know what you're getting with Ben Chilwell, and there is limitations. Doughty, you're taking a punt. He's only 24, but he's got real promise in terms of going forward. His attacking ability is great. He's going to be cheap, and you've got potential there. It could potentially be a really good signing. It might not work out, but there is excitement there behind it. So that's something I'd be open to, but United haven't been linked to him at all. But it's someone that I think we should have looked at, for sure. And I'm surprised that United haven't looked at that. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. But let's move on a little bit on this. Talked about the left-back situation, and I think we've got opinions across. In terms of the vote, we've got nearly 7,000 votes in the chat, and 68% say no, 16% say loan, and 15% say yes. So I think the majority of you guys definitely don't want to bring Ben Chilwell into Manchester United, and the people that do, majority of them would prefer to do it on a loan. But, it's just stopgap FC, isn't it? So for me, it's like, let's actually get someone in who fits the profile. But I don't think we have the money to do so, which is unfortunate. I mean, we've got to do a loan obligation to buy just to get Ugarte in, which I'm super excited about. But it is tight in terms of money. I mean, if we could have got rid of Lindelof and McTominay, maybe the money would be there to buy a left back. But unfortunately, doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that. I mean, in terms of Scott McTominay, there's just an ad come out with him, in United shirt, doing an ad for the Adidas new boots that are obviously in Adidas are in a relationship with Manchester United. Does that mean he's staying? I mean, for me, no. These ads are done well in advance. But for me, with McTominay, it's just absolutely crazy to me that we've not been able to find anybody that will pay 25 million for him, considering last season he was absolutely clutch. What, did he get into double digits for goals? I think he did get into double digits for goals. I mean, surely there's a club out there that would pay 25 million for him for what he can offer. Tall, physical. I know Napoli want him, but unless he sign Osman, they're not going to be able to do it. I see that as similar to the Fulham situation. Fulham were going to get McTominay, but then they've gone and spent money on other players. And it's like Napoli, it's all if, buts and maybes. We want absolutes. If you've seen that meme, it's hilarious. But McTominay, I just think he probably might end up staying. What I've heard, though, around McTominay is that he actually would like to, this is just purely what I've heard. I'm not claiming to have grade A sources. But what I've heard is McTominay actually would like to go and take on a new challenge, and he wants to start regularly. He wants regular game time. So that's what I've heard around McTominay. So it's not as if McTominay is just, trying to stay at the club and longing it out and, he's not wanting to go. Apparently he wants to go and get regular game time. He wants to move. I've heard Erik ten Hag is very fond of keeping him as part of his squad. I mean, looking from Erik ten Hag's point of view, he came off the bench and saved you multiple times last season. He is someone that you can use from the bench. He is a clutch player that you can shove on in the last 20 minutes, and he can score you a goal, he can defend a lead. Like, as a manager's point of view, if you could have that in your back pocket, you're going to accept it. But from INEOS's point of view, they need the money. One, to bring in Ugarte, and two, potentially to bring in a left back for Erik ten Hag. So if you're looking about money, which INEOS are going to have to do because they've got to balance the books, they want to sell McTominay. McTominay wants to go. Erik ten Hag would be happy to keep him. But at the same time, if he does stay, INEOS aren't going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe we've kept him, because he is liked around the club and he can do a job. So it's that situation where it's likely he's going to go and it looks like he's going to go, but INEOS are going to stand firm on 25 to 30 million, and it just doesn't look like anyone's going to pay it. But for me, it's like, I've just seen Ipswich are signing Brozier for 30 million. I'm sorry. Right, Ipswich do need a striker, and to be honest, Brozier's a decent little transfer for them, and I think he'll do well for him, and if he keeps him up, fair play. But £30 million. Skip's gone to Leicester for 25 million. I can't believe my eyes. I have a feel he's like, there's something going on, like a secret like club with all the rest of the clubs in the Premier League. And it's like, something's going on behind the scenes. It's like, we'll pay that, you pay that. And Manchester United are just excluded from it. And when we can't even get 10 million for Palistri, a Uruguayan international that's got a lot of future and promise and is really talented. Oliver Skipp's going for 25 million to Leicester. Scott McTominay scored 10 goals in the Premier League, I think it was, or I'd have to go and search it. He definitely got a decent amount of goals in the Premier League that season. Let me actually go and check that right now. Scott McTominay goals last season, and we can't get the money for him. I mean, Scotland international, that's completely relied upon, and he's proved it in the Premier League. Like he's also played, Champions League football before. I mean, I can't believe my eyes in what's happening. So United, we've definitely improved, but still in terms of selling players, we are so poor. I seen something come up the other day in terms of what we've bought players for and what they've ended up leaving the club for, and it's mental. It really is mental. It's something we've got to get better at. I understand the majority of our players are on a lot higher of a wage than other teams in the Premier League, so you've got to take that into consideration. But McTominay isn't on a massive wage. He's not on a huge wage, so that shouldn't be an issue either. He got 7 goals in the Premier League, but I was right. He got 10 goals overall last season, McTominay, and you're telling me nobody will pay 25 million for him? It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me, honestly. So, yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Will he go? I think it's like 60% chance he'll go, 40% chance he'll stay in terms of Scott McTominay. Again, if he stays, I think he's a good squad player to have. But if he goes, and that means we can fund a left back potentially as an extra deal, I would take that, because it looks like INEOS are now manoeuvring a deal where if McTominay stays, we can still get Ugarte on this loan obligation to buy. Now, I think that's fantastic for United and Erik ten Hag, because Ugarte, for me, we need him. We need to bring him in. It's an absolute must. But then you obviously still have the option of McTominay, and it adds more depth to our midfield in terms of squad depth over the course of the season. But if you're telling me we need to sell Scott McTominay in order to invest into a left back, I'm absolutely selling him to do that, because I think it's crucial. But I don't think we'll sign a left back personally. We might sign someone on loan. McTominay, will he go? We'll have to wait and see, but I'm not absolutely sold on it. Akil Aravin says, is it the club's issue or agent's issue? I mean, I don't know what the issue is, but why can so many other teams sell their players for a decent amount of money and we can't get anything for ours? The players that have actually done well as well in terms of McTominay too. It's crazy for me. Also, just touching on it as well, obviously in terms of Chelsea, these are the quotes coming out from Maresca. So Maresca has said, with Chilwell, I said he's a lovely guy, but because of his position, he will struggle. And Maresca has also said, I've tried to be honest. I told Raheem he's going to struggle to get minutes with us. Chilwell is going to struggle here too. And Raheem Sterling and Ben Chilwell are now officially out of the Chelsea project, and they are training apart from the first team. I mean, this on top of the fact that Maresca said Chilwell needs to find another club. I mean, Chilwell and Sterling are absolutely out. And I know Chilwell, we've already talked about him being offered to United, but a lot of people are saying, Chelsea have been interested in Sancho. With Sterling going, does this make space to bring Sancho in? Well, I find it really interesting that Maresca said, it's nothing against Raheem Sterling. He's a good player. He's just not my type of winger. Well, is Sancho your type of winger, the creative winger that's technically, good with the ball at his feet? He's not going to have an extreme burst of pace, cut inside and score a banger, but he is going to keep the ball, and, he has got tricks up his sleeve and he works the ball well. Is that someone that Chelsea might go for? Who knows? Keep an eye on Sancho to Chelsea. I would find it mental if they did go for him, Sancho, because of, the amount of players they've got in these positions and the amount they've already spent, but you never know with Chelsea. I mean, I beg them to come in and pay us a decent amount of money for Sancho. That would be brilliant, because Sancho isn't really part of Erik ten Hag's plans, let's be honest, and it just kind of takes him off our hands. Again, I've always said, talented player, but he's probably not got a future at United under Ten Hag unless things drastically change. So maybe with Sterling going, that might open the door for Sancho, but it's a huge, huge maybe, in my opinion. And if I had to put money on it, I don't think it'd happen. But with Chelsea, you never know. You never know. I can't actually believe that they've still not signed a striker. They've signed every man and his dog, but somehow just keep avoiding a striker. Honestly, it's like someone's writing a script. I feel sorry for Chelsea fans, I honestly do, because I think Todd Boehly is ruining that club, genuinely. The way that they're running that club, to me, I mean, they might prove me wrong and it might all come into place, but I don't get it. I don't get why players would want to go there. I know you're on huge money, but why would you want to be part of a 40-man squad where it just feels like there's no togetherness, there's no story, there's no, there's no kind of project that you're on. I don't get it. I do not get it, honestly. And I think it also proves as well what's happening at Chelsea, how important good ownership is. Look at Chelsea under Abramovich, right? They were winning consistently, or always competing. They were a team you didn't want to play. They were always competing, Champions League, Premier Leagues, Cups, they were there. Todd Boehly's come in. Doesn't matter how much money you spend. He's spent obscene amounts of money. But he's done it in the complete wrong way, and he has no idea, in my opinion, how the Premier League works and how English football works. And he's turned that club upside down, genuinely. And it proves how important ownership is. So hopefully with Sir Jim Ratcliffe as part of our ownership and the way things are changing under INEOS, that'll massively benefit us. And people who've said before, the Glazers, rival fans that have said, I wish I had the Glazers who spent this much money, yada, yada, yada. It just is proof that it's so important. It doesn't matter how much money you spend, it's who is spending the money, what transfer decisions are you making, what footballing decisions are you making? Have you got people in place that know football, that know how to win? That's the most important thing. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that as well, because I think it's just the proof is in the pudding of how important good ownership is, for sure. Anyway, guys, hit a like on the video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for getting all your comments in. Let me know in the comments, should Manchester United sign Ben Chilwell? What left back would you go for? Will we sign a left back? Are we making a mistake not signing a left back? Ugarte, what date do you think we'll sign him? How much money do you think is the right amount of money? Obviously, PSG pushing for 51 million. We're pushing for around 40. I think, I personally think United's valuation is more accurate. Whether we'll get that down, who knows? Let me know in the comments all your thoughts as well. Thank you for watching. Any breaking news, we'll be back quickly. Glenn Cheddar's just put a chat in and said, if a player is considered a failure at United, which we've had for 10 years, then we don't get a market value. We'd get value for maybe 2 to 3 at the moment. Thank you for your contribution. A lot of people saying Hermoso, interesting stuff. Thank you everyone for watching, and hit a like on the video. We will see you on the next one.